When it comes to social media, I definitely have a love-hate relationship. On the one hand, I love seeing the creativity and content other people produce, which is not only really fun to listen to and watch, it also inspires me and facilitates my own creativity and learning. I love learning from social media, and I think if used correctly, it can be an amazing educational resource. On the flip side, I actually get quite a lot of anxiety over social media, and this is something I've never really spoken about despite being quite active on lots of different platforms. I have 3 Instagram accounts, I have a TikTok, and of course, a podcast, and now this new YouTube channel. So if you're listening to the podcast, welcome back to another season of Wisdom and Wellbeing with Dr. Wannie. And if you're watching on YouTube, hi. My name is Wannie. I am a junior doctor living and working in the UK. I am considering the start of this new season and the beginning of this YouTube channel as a clean slate and a fresh start produce the content that I am really, really proud of and is high quality, which I've always strived to do. But also I want this content to be quite open and honest about exactly where I am at in life. And I've actually refilmed and rewritten and re-recorded this episode multiple different times, focusing on different angles, including talking about how I recently graduated and I am now a doctor. But none of those felt authentic. And every time I went to edit, I got a wave of anxiety and decided to do the classic bury my head in the sand and not do anything. When I started my podcast in the midst of lockdown, I had no expectations. And as the months went on, it grew into something much bigger than I could ever have anticipated. And the podcast and the content I produce is all about helping you become the best version of you. I am passionate about health, and I believe it's more than just the biology or cells that make up a person that creates good health. There is a medical theory called the biopsychosocial model of health, which states that good health is made up of 3 components: biology, psychology, i.e. your mental health, and your social environment. So this includes your friends, your family, your finances, and everything around you. I produce content that gives you the tools to level up in all 3 areas of health, and I've covered topics on mental health, the environment, race, and more. And with self-improvement and personal development being the area of content I've chosen to focus on, there is always this pressure I feel to do the right thing, say the right thing, to look put together and not accidentally offend anyone. And I think that's where a lot of my anxiety comes in. And I think part of that is from me being a people pleaser at heart, which is not a good thing. And the other part is me being a perfectionist and wanting to do everything I can to the best of my ability, but also comparing myself to other people who are successful and have been doing it for years. You might be thinking, if this is something that is stressing me out so much, then why do I just give up and not do it? And I've had some very well-meaning advice from friends and family to do just that and live a carefree life away from social media. But at the same time, I really enjoy producing new content and coming up with ideas and talking to the expert guests that I get on my podcast. And for the last few months, I've been in this weird paradox where I've not been making videos because of all of the anxiety I get from trying to edit, but then also getting anxious because I'm not producing content and I'm holding my own self back. And I have been in this limbo of kind of waiting for these feelings to disappear and thinking that if I just read the right book or listened to the right podcast, then someone would have this amazing piece of wisdom or advice to get me out of whatever funk I've been in. And suddenly, all the things that I've been thinking about doing for a while, I would suddenly do. And I think that's the way a lot of us live our lives, waiting for the right moment, waiting for external influences to make the tough decisions for us. Essentially living our lives reacting to situations rather than proactively taking control of our lives, because let's face it, it's easier that way. Like I said before, I'm very much into self-improvement, and for the longest time, I thought that meant working on creating the version of myself that would be able to do all the things I wanted to do, and then doing those things. So for example, maybe you want to do design or sing or start a podcast or a YouTube channel, and you're working behind the scenes to become arty or waiting for those feelings of anxiety to disappear before you take that leap. Well, the truth is, most likely you'll never feel good enough to do those things, and you might spend years and years of your life waiting for those feelings of anxiety to disappear. I don't think there's a single successful person out there who was completely confident when they stepped out to start whatever project that they ended up thriving in. To clarify, I am not talking about medically diagnosed anxiety, such as generalized anxiety disorder or panic disorder. And if you're worried that you might be suffering from those, then definitely please go talk to your doctor or GP. I saw a TikTok the other day, which at the moment is my biggest educational resource, and I'll try and find the link and link it below. And the guy basically explained the results of a happiness experiment. And in this experiment, they got people to use a random computer yes-no generator to make a major life decision. And the results showed that the people who said yes ultimately were happier months down the line. The big problem I have with self-improvement is that you can spend so long behind the scenes trying to cultivate this best version of you that it actually ends up working against you and holding you back from doing and achieving the things that you want to do. Because at the end of the day, the idea that you have in your head of that person might never exist. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying don't try and improve yourself, because otherwise what would be the point of the content I produce? I guess what I'm trying to say is just do it. Stop pursuing perfect if it stops you from practicing. Work with what you've got now and improve as you go along. Be less afraid of making mistakes. And we're all kind of in this boat together. There's never going to be a perfect time and people will always have an opinion. But I want to look back at my life and think, at least I tried, rather than muse on the what ifs. And so what does that mean for my podcast? So the aim from here on out is to help you level up in all three areas of health, like I discussed before. And my podcast will be filled with expert guests who I'm really looking forward to talking with. And of course, I'll be on Instagram, TikTok, and all the other different social medias. But I want to keep it 100% real. I don't want to be one of those fake self-improvement influencers who act like they've got their whole life together, because I certainly do not. So next week I have an episode out on feminism with Amy Andrada, who is from Edinburgh University, which is just an amazing conversation. And so in the meantime, you can find me across the different social media platforms. And I just want to say that this week, I hope that you go for the things that you want to go for. And like I said, if you're watching on YouTube, definitely subscribe. And if you're listening to the podcast, I'll be back across all the different streaming platforms next week, Friday. Bye.